Hello and welcome to the speed triple chain and sprocket removal. This is a 2006 speed triple. I had an old sprocket and a really bad chain. I bought this bike used and I thought I'd give this a little bit of a tutorial. So the first thing you want to do is remove your front sprocket guard. This guard is held together. These should not be very tight, and in fact, I learned these are actually, I think, aluminum bolts, so they're non-magnetic. I believe that's an 8 millimeter. So you just want to loosen them up, get this, this front sprocket guard out of the way. Speed it up here for you. Now, this speed triple, like I said, I bought used. Its chain is the second chain, I believe, that's been on it. And I'll show you in a minute how I know it's the second chain. When you remove this guard, there's going to be a crush washer, and it looks like the original crush washer was bent down from the factory, and then it was bent down a second time. And again, make sure you remove these. There are 5. Make sure you have 5 and that you're going to put 5 back on. And when you remove this, I'll show you that the inside of this is actually quite dirty. It's got some, typical gunk and grime that you see, but the gunk and grime actually it worried me a little bit when I looked at this. It's, if you can kind of see in the video here, it's metallic. It's got like little specks of metal in it, which makes me think that the sprocket or the chain were being worn prematurely, and I think it's a chain. This is a cheap Velar chain. I do not recommend anyone buying these chains, so get a quality chain. Here's a closer look at the front sprocket and chain. Again, I'm going to show you in a minute. We're going to see the inside of that cover again, and you're going to want to clean that out. Basically, just I used my good old utility sink and cleaned it out. And next, I bent up that crush washer, like I said. I had to bend it up in 2 places, so that's why I said I think this is the second chain that's been on the bike. The crush washer, I'm using a hammer and a screwdriver here, but I'm not tapping very hard. This is literally me tapping. I sped it up here just because it's boring, but I'm just literally tapping that crush washer up. Not very hard at all. Extremely light, in fact. You don't want to put any type of extra due force on that front sprocket. Now I'm putting some rags here, and what I did was I used WD-40 on this because you're going to have to eventually crank down on this this bolt here, and it's under lots of torque. So I sprayed it with WD-40, and I know, oh, you're using WD-40. Well, guess what? WD-40 is cheap. It penetrates just as good as anything else that I've ever seen or used. I mean, you can buy the expensive penetrating oil, and that's fine. I had some WD-40 around, and I was using that. Here's the big breaker bar I used. That's a 36 millimeter socket. You might not have that. And I extended it here with one of my jack. Actually, it's my jack pole. And I needed that extra leverage. So just know, and through the magic of film, we now broke it. So you're going to need to lay down on that pretty hard. So spin that off. You'll get your nut off. And then you'll see right behind that is that crush washer that keeps it on. I've read on the speed triple boards that some people have actually had that was the only thing that was holding on their front sprocket because the washer kept it, that the bolt was very loose, and that's not good because it's supposed to be, I think, under like 132 Newton meters. I'll tell you the bolt torque later. So you can take that off, and you can see that now I'm kind of looking at the chain. We're going to break the chain now. To break the chain, you can buy really expensive tools. They're like $90 to $120, and they break the chain, and they have the rivet installer on there. What I did was I decided I was going to invest in 2 tools. The first one being a cheap Harbor Freight chain breaker. This is just your good old, what is it, $15, $14 chain breaker from Harbor Freight. As you'll see, it works just fine. I didn't have any problem. I know some people said, oh, they've had it break. I just don't think you're using it right, and I think they're being careless with their tools. I think this is a great tool. It's cheap, and it breaks the chain just fine. You just want to do it slow, and you want to set it up right. So the thing, how you want to set it up is you'll have it on there, and tighten up that larger nut, the actual adjustment nut, so that it's snug. But make sure you lube. First off, make sure you lube these threads on all the threads, both the inner thread and the outer threads here. You're gonna need to make sure that those are nicely lubed. I think that might be why people are breaking these. So pull that out, pull excuse me, the inner nut, the one that's the long one with the pin, out as far as you can so that it's barely there. Tighten it down, tighten your larger nut, we're going to call it, down onto the area. And you notice here, I did not choose to grind down the edges. I think that's foolish. I think you buy a chain breaker, you shouldn't have to grind anything. Plus, then grinding, you get tiny bits of metal everywhere. You got to cover stuff up. It's a pain in the ass. So you can see here, I'm now, it was securely put on, and now I'm going to actually try and break that rivet and push it through, push that rivet link through. So do it slowly here, and you get a little bit at a time. You can't really tell that the resistance is about the same no matter where you're at in the process until it's all the way out. So what I did was I just did it, you can see, kind of deliberate movements, and then actually I'm going to take that out here, and I'm going to put it and look at it, and then we're going to see that it did in fact push it through a little bit. It's flat on that end there. I don't know if you can see, and a tiny piece of it is being pulled out on the other side. So just make sure you line that up again, get it on nice and snug. Here's maybe a little bit of a better shot for you, and then go ahead and push the rest of it out. The great thing about when you break the chain, you don't need to break both rivets out. You just have to break that one rivet on that rivet link. I just chose to break the one, and then you have kind of your master link that's held on still. But I wasn't, obviously not going to reuse this chain or anything like that. Like I said, this chain was garbage, and in a few seconds here you'll see. I'll show you the kinks. Either it was garbage. I shouldn't say that. Either it was garbage or it was very poorly maintained. It could have been both. I just, like I said, saw all those metal shavings in that front sprocket cover, and my guess is that these velar chains just are not of a good quality. I know they're dirt cheap compared to quality DID or EK or Tsunebaki or any of these other. I think I'm saying that right. Any of the other chains here. So just make sure you invest in something that you can almost put your life on. Having a chain break or snap or something go wrong with your drive chain or your sprockets while you're riding at speeds, that's just asking for an injury at the least, and possibly even something worse. So spend your money wisely, but for me, I'm going to spend a little bit more. I went with a DID chain. I didn't go with anything super crazy, just their standard X-ring chain. And in fact, I think I got the kit from Sprocket Center. So here you see I broke the chain. The chain is off, and we're going to pull it out. When you're setting your bike up too, I guess I should have mentioned this. Everything, you should always work. Everything should be in neutral. I don't think you should ever put it in a gear. I think there's a few times where you could put it in gear to help you break that front sprocket nut and do something like that. You're just going to put undue torque forces on your clutch and on your clutch box, on your gears. Keep it in neutral. Let everything flow. I did most of this on a stand. I did break the front sprocket on when it was on solid ground, hammering on the rear brake. So here you can see that chain. It's all knotted up. Doesn't smooth. It's not smooth at all. It's kind of terrible. And this is just indicative of the chain that you see right there. That middle link's not even moving. It's just way past its time. And this bike only had 17,000 miles on it. So at some point, like I said, this is a replacement chain, and it's I kind of expect a chain to last almost 17,000 miles on its own. They decided to replace the stock chain with this piece of crap, and it really only needs 17,000 miles. So that being said, let's get that out of there. Go ahead now, and you can remove that front sprocket, and you can see the sprocket. actually has some side rubber things on it. This is the stock sprocket, I believe. Those rubber things are retainers, are dampeners of some sort. Um, Clean up underneath that sprocket. You can see it's a little dirty. Obviously I sprayed it with WD-40 and stuff, so clean it out. Your replacement sprocket might not have those dampeners on it. I kind of was a little worried about that, but overall I think they'll be okay. I think it lines up on those splines and not actually on the retainers, so you should be good when you replace it. This will be followed up eventually with a install video. This is just the first one I'm putting together to show you the uninstall. So now moving to the rear sprocket, you're going to use a 6mm. That's going to be a 6. I'm trying to show you here, but you can't see it. 6mm torque or Allen, and then I believe that's a 12, just good old 12mm socket. The bolts are retained on the back with the Allen. And then a 12 up front. Because I was replacing the sprockets, and actually I had new sprocket nuts too. They were like $5. I figured, hey, why not just buy a new nut lock? They're kind of like a lock nut. They have a little insert on the inside. It's not nylon, it's metal, but it's a little bit more secure just than a regular nut for your sprockets. And well, this thing's spinning kind of fast. I kind of want my stuff to stay on when I'm riding. So here's some bad camera work, because this was a GoPro that was on my head. Taking off them in no particular order. When you're installing, you should install in a star pattern, but when you're uninstalling, it really doesn't matter. So when you take off those bolts, I believe there's 6 of them, your sprocket will just pop right off. It's kind of the beauty of having a single-sided swing arm. It makes maintenance back here super easy, and voila, there you go. Sprocket's off. So clean that up before you do any reinstall. And one thing I did was I wanted to make sure that the sprocket was the right sprocket where I ordered it from. SprocketCenter.com did me right, and I just everything just looked a little bit different. So what I did was I took the old sprocket. There's a set of the new sprockets. But I just put it over it and then put the nuts in the right place to make sure they align right, and that was true. And then one thing you can see here, though, that's a little odd is that the nuts align and the sprocket's right size and everything looks good, but the actual teeth are not aligned. They're actually a half tooth out of alignment. You can't really see here. It's kind of a terrible cam work, sorry, but the teeth are not right on top of each other. They're actually in between each other. Not a big deal, and just realize that it's okay, because you're going to have to do when you install, you're going to have to loosen up that chain bolt. The chain can be adjusted for tightness, and a half a tooth is well within what you're able to do for tightening. So stay tuned for the install. The install is pretty simple, and you're just going to have you're going to need to make sure that you torque stuff down correctly, and I hope this helped you out. And like I said, stay tuned for the install, subscribe, and like this video. Thanks.